I sat through the whole thing. This was really bad. It was extremely leftist on every political dimension, racial politics.
Have they ever thought about maybe like a little bit of like, I don't know, vulnerability study, opposition research, that sort of thing?
It's got extra musical numbers that are incredibly unnecessary that really add to that runtime. And let me go ahead and...
They spent $170 million to make the thing, and it had the lowest opening, under $50 million, of any of these live-action Disney.
So apparently, according to them and according to the writers of Snow White, women can't even want to be in love anymore.
Once upon a time in Hollywood, a young actress named Rachel Zegler was poised to become the next big thing. She wasn't just another hopeful, she was the chosen one. Handpicked by Steven Spielberg himself, the titan of cinema, to star in his lavish remake of West Side Story. It was the kind of blessing that could launch a lifetime career. Soon after, Disney tapped her to lead their most ambitious live-action reboot yet, Snow White. Rachel wasn't just rising, she was soaring, faster than most actresses could ever dream of. For a brief, shining moment, it seemed she could do no wrong. But fairy tales don't always end the way they begin. Behind the polished red carpet appearances and carefully curated interviews, a different story was brewing. Whispers from insiders painted a much darker picture. One where ego, entitlement, and stubbornness clashed with opportunity at every turn. And as the
sexual politics, class politics, regime politics, its narrative was cowardly. It was just awful.
Like so many kids raised on TikTok, she's all for infantata is the only global solution.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird.
Truth began to leak out. Even her most powerful allies, including Spielberg himself, were allegedly left disillusioned and furious. The Golden Girl narrative crumbled, revealing a cautionary tale of how fast Hollywood can turn on its brightest new star. It all started on the set of West Side Story. For most actors, being cast in a Spielberg movie is the pinnacle, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to learn from a master and earn the respect of the entire industry. But according to insiders, Rachel didn't exactly approach it with gratitude. Instead, she reportedly clashed with Spielberg's vision from the very beginning. While Spielberg wanted to honor the spirit of the original, a heartfelt story grounded in innocence and love, Rachel pushed hard to reinterpret Maria as a symbol of modern empowerment, independence, and rebellion. Now, challenging a director isn't always a death sentence. Great art is often born from creative tension. But challenging Steven Spielberg, a living legend, on the very movie he was passionate about recreating? That's bold, to put it kindly. And according to those close to the production,
magical creatures, you actually just went backwards. You actually just erased the dwarfism side of it.
It's the first live-action film, which is Snow White and the Evil Queen. And that's me.
Wait, it's 7 and the magical beings.
Yeah,
they won't even say
magical
and the 7 dwarves.
No, because they're not dwarves. For right now.
It was a disaster. Rehearsals became battlegrounds of ideas and egos. The atmosphere on set grew increasingly tense, with Spielberg's patience reportedly wearing thin. One insider even claimed that Spielberg, usually calm and composed even under pressure, was visibly irritated during key scenes. By the end of the shoot, whispers circulated that he had privately sworn never to work with Rachel again. But the troubles didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling. Rachel's behavior off-set only added fuel to the fire. Allegations swirled that she was difficult to direct, resistant to feedback, and at times dismissive of the seasoned crew working around her. Some claimed that she saw herself as the new face of a generation and acted accordingly, showing little respect for the traditions or processes that had built Hollywood in the first place. And yet, despite these growing concerns, Disney decided to double down on her star power, handing her the iconic role of Snow White in their massive live-action reboot. It was supposed to be her crowning moment, her redemption arc. Instead, it became a catastrophe. Almost immediately, cracks began to show. During early press rounds, Rachel made headlines not for her charm or excitement, but for her biting, dismissive attitude toward the classic story she was supposed to embody. Interviews surfaced where she mocked the original Snow White, calling it creepy and outdated. She laughed off the idea of true love and the traditional fairy tale romance, dismissing them as relics of a weird and backwards past. Instead of embracing the nostalgia that fans adored, she trashed it, and by extension, alienated millions of Disney loyalists before they even bought a ticket. It was the worst possible strategy. Disney fans are notoriously protective of their classics. They didn't want a radical reimagining. They wanted to see the magic they fell in love with brought to life. But Rachel wasn't interested in playing along. She sneered at the past and pitched a fiercely independent Snow White who didn't need saving, didn't need love, and frankly didn't seem to need much of anything at all. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Memes mocking her comments exploded across social media. YouTube critics shredded every word she said. TikTok creators racked up millions of views tearing apart her interviews. And still she didn't apologize. In fact, many felt she leaned even harder into her arrogance, doubling down on her critiques as if daring audiences to reject her. It was a bold gamble and it failed miserably. The audience turned on her long before Snow White ever hit theaters. And when it did, it bombed. Spectacularly. The numbers were catastrophic. With a bloated budget rumored to be nearing $270 million, the film needed to be a global sensation just to break even. Instead, it stumbled out of the gate, barely clawing its way to $194 million worldwide. Critics savaged it. Fans abandoned it. Disney executives, according to reports, were shell-shocked. Some insiders claimed that internal discussions about Rachel's fit for the studio's future had started long before the release. But by then it was too late. The damage was done. But box office numbers only told part of the story. Behind the scenes, the fallout was even worse. Rumors leaked that the set of Snow White had been a tense, politically charged environment. Divisions among cast and crew, awkward encounters, reshoots to cover up tensions. It was all there. Rachel, once seen as the bold new face of Disney, had become a divisive figure whose name alone stirred controversy. Marketing teams scrambled to contain the disaster, but it was like trying to plug a sinking ship with duct tape. Meanwhile, the impact rippled outward. Disney's entire live-action strategy took a hit. Projects were paused. Budgets were re-evaluated. In an industry driven by momentum and public goodwill, Rachel Zegler had somehow turned a sure-thing success into a cautionary tale overnight. As the months wore on, more stories began to surface about Rachel's earlier career, stories that painted an even bleaker picture. During the casting of West Side Story, some studio executives reportedly had concerns about her background claims and allegedly asked her to provide proof of her Latina heritage. Rachel, rather than handling the delicate situation with diplomacy, allegedly responded by escalating the conflict, going public with accusations that only deepened the controversy. Whether she was justified or not, the net effect was more drama, more headlines, and more reasons for Hollywood to second-guess its investment in her. All of this, the ego, the public missteps, the behind-the-scenes chaos, might have been survivable if Rachel had shown any ability to learn, to adapt, to win back the audience. But that humility never came. Instead, she seemed locked in a bubble of defiance, convinced that the problem wasn't her choices, her attitude, or her actions. It was the world around her. And Hollywood noticed. Steven Spielberg, once her greatest champion, was allegedly among the first to pull away. Disney, too, seemed to be quietly stepping back, reassessing future plans. The lesson was clear. In an industry where talent is abundant and competition is cutthroat, attitude matters. Respect matters. Gratitude matters. Without them, even the most golden opportunities can slip away in the blink of an eye. Rachel Zegler's story is not just about a young actress who took a few missteps. It's about the danger of believing your own hype too soon. It's about what happens when a rising star forgets that every fan, every director, every studio executive is part of the fragile ecosystem that keeps careers alive. It's about how quickly Hollywood can pivot from adoration to rejection when loyalty is betrayed. Today, Rachel's name no longer trends for her talent or her triumphs. It trends for the drama, the downfall, and the cautionary tale she has become. Spielberg, once her greatest supporter, now reportedly counts her among his greatest professional regrets. Disney, once ready to anoint her the face of a new generation, quietly moves forward, wiser and more cautious about who they trust with their treasured stories. And Rachel? She stands as a stark reminder that in Hollywood, fairy tales don't write themselves, and sometimes the villain of the story isn't lurking in the shadows. Sometimes, the villain is the very person who was supposed to be the hero. In the end, no matter how talented you are, no matter how powerful your backers, the audience always gets the final word. And in Rachel Zegler's case, they spoke loud and clear. The princess they had been promised? She never arrived.